Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of From the District with State Senator Suzanne Weber. I am joined, as always, from the senator who is doing this from the district.
I'm in the sunroom. I'm in the sunroom today, but there's no sun.
Well,
it's one of those really sad things. All winter long, I whine about the fact that it's raining and raining and raining, and then day after day after day. Well, we've had many days now without rain, and I'm trying to dig up my garden. You know what I want?
Rain.
I want rain, so it'll make it easier to dig up my garden.
Well,
I got rid of my rototiller, and so I'm going to have to do it by hand, and this is kind of daunting.
Yikes!
I know.
Isn't there a strapping young college student who's back for the summer or something who would do that for you?
Not that I have found yet.
Grandkids?
No, I don't have any around here anymore.
Oh, jeez. Well, anybody who's watching this who wants to do your friendly neighborhood state senator a solid, maybe give her a call and help her out with that. She got better things to do.
Thank you.
Well, Senator, we are, it is now the month of May. We have a month and a half at most left.
Yes,
in the
we
session.
Do. And we have a lot of work to do.
How are you feeling it's going?
Well, I've been very, we haven't had anything that is really truly controversial yet that has come to the attention of everyone. We do have those things that we traditionally have different opinions on, like, guns and transportation. And we're working through those sorts of things. I had a comment from someone that I wasn't very bipartisan, and I want people to know that beyond politics, we are a solid group of people who are working to make sure that what we are doing is better for the state. But I'm still a Republican. And so I also want to tell them that we have had several women potlucks, and it's the women of the Senate and the women of the House. And it's not Republican and Democrat. It's the women. And we have had the best times chatting and getting to know each other. And we have built some really special relationships in that.
Well, that's good to hear. And I'll just say, like, to the folks who are saying that, the internet is not real life. Twitter is not real life. X is not real life. Facebook is not real life. That is where you see some of the fighting that's going on. And we really do have differences of opinion. Otherwise, we wouldn't have political parties. So we do have difference of opinion, and we fight about those things. But just like you said, you have that women's group of senators. I know the staff, we go out afterwards and we talk. And there's one of my favorite is the Craft Brew Caucus. Where those of you who know me, not surprised, I'm sure, we'll go out to a local brewery in Salem and we'll have a few beers, and it'll be some of the most liberal staff members to some of the most conservative staff members. Yes. There's the karaoke group, which is led by Senator Solomon and Senator Brock Smith, a conservative Republican and a fairly liberal Democrat. Like, what you see on the internet and what you see in the news is there to make you click it and make you outraged. That is a reality.
Right, it is. And I wanted you to know, I don't think I've told you this, but I've been invited to join the Cigar and Whiskey Caucus.
Well, I know a number of members of that caucus, and give them my best.
I certainly will. I don't know if I'll be able to join them this week, but they have a very active group.
Yeah, I will say that building gets very, very heated. So don't say there is no politics and there's no partisanship. It does exist. But I think what you hear on the news and what you hear on social media, it just is amped up to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And it just isn't. It isn't reality. And the reality is as chairs and vice chairs are talking to each other. There's debate, there's discussion, there's friendship. So
right, and Representative Neron has been appointed to Senator Wood's position. Senator Woods unfortunately died during this session, and he was a wonderful man.
he was.
And I had a great conversation with Senator Neron this morning, and it was really good.
Yeah, Senator Neron, you served in the House with Senator Neron.
Yes.
You were on I remember you were on the Education Committee together. Yeah. And certainly, again, definitely a disagreement of opinions.
Yes.
But I've always found a pretty reasonable person, even though we have very fundamental differences.
Yes, and she and I worked really hard to look at the the distribution of funds to be able to increase the amount of funds that would go to especially special education and children in poverty.
Right.
And we worked on that for a long time.
Yeah. So I think that's a good opportunity to just remind folks, X, Facebook, social media is not real life. It is not real life. It is those things are designed to cause you outrage.
Yes.
And designed to make you more upset so that you'll click and you'll get the algorithms spend more time in the app. So let's talk about real life. Let's talk about some wins, which were bipartisan wins.
Yes.
2 bills. Let's start with the one that's been signed by the governor, SB 465. This increased, it got rid of limits on, or not really got rid of limits. It changed how limits are calculated.
The limits. Right.
It changed limits on how are calculated on individual development accounts, IDAs, which most folks used. Either for education or for housing.
It changed the limit from 6 to 20,000, and it changed the distribution, but it maintained the fact that it's going to be used for education and for people to be able to buy a house.
Right.
And actually, we had people in the House who have taken advantage of this in the past and see the value of it.
Right. I believe Representative Ruiz mentioned that he actually used one of these to buy a house.
Yes.
Which is awesome. And the reality is that $6,000, which is about the down payment I put on my first house, it will
not reality anymore.
Will not get you much, but 20,000 will. So that's that's probably
and it is a savings plan for people because people are putting money into this.
Right. So that bill has been signed by the governor. It is law. It will take effect. I believe it will take effect.
It's 90 days.
In 90 days after signing dies, so that would be in September. So that'll give everybody some time to recalculate things. So that is wonderful. Go ahead.
Another thing we've got coming this week is the revenue forecast. Yes. It is something that is we're not really looking forward to it because we're afraid that it's not going to be able to provide the funds that we're going to absolutely need to take care of things like education and health and transportation especially.
Right.
Which I am assigned to the committee, transportation committee, to negotiate the plan that is hopefully going to be able to fund transportation and deal with things that we need to deal, especially with on the coast.
So that committee, is that 50-50 bipartisan? Is that more Democrats than Republicans?
There are 4 Republicans, 2 from the House and 2 from the Senate. And then there are the chairs of the committee, McLean and Gorsuch. And then there's a representative from the Speaker's House and a representative from the President's office. And so
more Democrats.
Yes. So there's like 4 and 4.
Yeah. So it's important to remember that there are going to be more Democrats here. So you aren't coming from a place of strength,
right?
But you're there. So you're there in the room and you're able to hopefully make a difference. Because as we said, we walked through that framework, and there were some real problems there.
Yes, there are.
You can't expect that those are all going to go away, but hopefully we can mitigate some things.
No, and we're keeping whatever decisions come out of that committee on the down low right now until we have a full package.
Right.
And so then we'll be coming forward with it, to our caucuses.
Right.
And then to the public.
Yeah, that's important because things could change.
Right.
Up until the time that package.
Yes.
It's going to change again. Certainly, once it's actually public and people can testify on it.
Because it's a true negotiations. It really is. We as Republicans have met for several hours to hash out some of these things and what we think people could live with. And so we'll see then what the other side decides is what they can live with.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to actually be, believe it or not. Right.
Yeah. You want to talk about the other bill we got?
Let's talk about SB 710. Now, this hasn't been signed yet, but it has passed both houses and have been signed by the Speaker and the President. Tell us a little bit about this bill and why you particularly signed on to this, because this wasn't originally your bill. This was originally Senator Solman's bill, but you signed on as a chief sponsor.
Yes, I did, because the judges that we have, especially in family court, are not really, we have found on a wide look at what's happening with families and decisions, are not trained especially to look into and to be able to discern how to work through a lot of the family problems that are coming to our courts. And so there's been a group of us, and it's all women, amazingly enough, both Democrats and Republicans, who feel that this is enough of an issue that we need to make sure that our judges are trained, especially in issues that relate to families and what is happening in the family dynamics, and to be able to adequately look at what is happening financially for these families and emotionally for these families, because that's where a lot of the problems arise. And I'm telling you that I have more than one constituent who has had some real difficulties in family court.
Right.
And so we need to make sure that our judges are trained to be able to adequately and fairly discern what needs to happen. That's it. And it's probably the first step of what we're doing, because as a group, we have decided that maybe there's more that needs to be done. And we're working on that. But it's not something that we're going to openly discuss currently. But this is a step in the right direction.
Right. I don't think it's nothing against judges. They're lawyers.
No.
They go to law school.
No.
They don't go to not social workers. They're
Right.
not psychologists. They're not mental health professionals. They're lawyers.
Right.
But the reality is, in these very sensitive situations, they could use a dose of social work / mental health /
Yes.
psychology, right?
Yes.
Right. So that's the hope. That's the hope that will come from this. Governor has not signed it yet, but I don't think there's any reason to believe that she won't sign it.
Right. And you got to look at judges, for the most part, are elected positions. And they don't know what all is going to be thrown at them on the bench.
Right.
And so they need to have a wider view.
Right. Yes, well, I'm very glad that that is going forward. You have a number of other bills that are moving forward. Hopefully, we'll talk about more victories going forward. But one topic I wanted to talk to has actually there's a number of pieces of legislation as well as some ballot measures that are coming up in this District 16, and that's the transient lodging tax.
Right.
For those folks who are unfamiliar with the transient lodging tax, it is a tax that a local jurisdiction puts on, as well as the state. There's a state lodging tax and a local lodging tax that can go on to the rental of rooms, rental of Airbnbs. Those funds then are held, and 30% of those funds can go to pretty much anything. Usually, most places
Tillamook County, it goes to the roads.
In Tillamook County, it goes to road infrastructure. Then 70% has to go to 70% has to go to tourism, marketing, and tourism-related facilities. There's a number of bills going in here, so I don't want to talk about any one particular.
No, and I've sponsored a couple of them.
You have?
Because I wanted to know exactly how that money is used.
Right.
And that was one of my bills that really didn't go anywhere.
Right. But there are a few that it looks like may actually go somewhere. But let's talk about let's talk about the two things. There's one question is, should the transit lodging tax be raised? And you're seeing that in the ballot measure in Tillamook County. There's a number of pieces of legislation at the state level also trying to raise. The other question is how that money should be used. Does that 30-70 split work? If it does work, or what is the definition of a tourism impacted facility? But what's the right question we should be asking here?
Well, the thing that we need to consider is the people who are living, especially in the area, are not paying this tax. It's the people who are coming to visit and renting lodging here that are paying that tax. We, in turn, will probably go somewhere else and pay that tax also. But that's the only time that that tax is going to be levied against us. Now, the vacation rental people are given a small percentage to be able to handle this money also. So, all of this takes bookkeeping. This takes, being able to turn it in, to account for it, all those things that you do. Audit it, make sure that, what you're doing is adequate and fair. The good that we see that comes out of it is in the 30%, in that, like here in our rural area, we can use that 30% for our roads. That's what we instituted it for in the beginning. That's why we did it, is because we didn't have any money for our roads in our county. Well, there's been...
Hi, Martin.
Martin
sees Scott in the back, so that's what...
It's Scott back there. Martin, just hush. Hey.
Talking back.
Sit down and relax.
Story of my life.
So anyway, that 70% has done a lot of good also to encourage people. Stop it. In the shoulder seasons to be able to come and enjoy the coast. And that is what is buoying up our economy, is the fact that we have encouraged people to come here in those seasons that are not high tourist. But it has made for some difficulties along the way. One of the difficulties is that we have not included adequate money to be able to support the emergency services that also come with all of the people coming here. Yeah, and I met a fireman in elevator in Salem last week, and it's only 4 floors, but we had a lot to talk about, and we ended up getting off on another floor and talking about the fact that if someone's dog jumps over the cliff, they will actually bring in a helicopter to rescue that dog. Does anybody take into consideration how much that is costing our local government? It's huge. That's a huge burden. Do we charge for it? No. And then when you look at Clatsop County, especially, and you look at the amount of people that are lodged in their jail during the high tourist season, between 30 and 40% of them don't have a zip code that is Clatsop County, Tillamook County, Columbia County. They don't. They're people that come here and sometimes make choices that they wouldn't ordinarily make at home because they're on vacation. So, okay, we need to remember that our emergency services need to be supported. And a lot of our emergency services went into it with a tax base that is antiquated. And so they don't have the funds to be able to continue to support at the level that we are having to support. Rescuing people, arresting people, dealing with people with drug and alcohol things. And then what do we spend the 70% on? Well, I know one municipality that has $9 million that they're holding in reserve that they have to spend on tourism, and they have nothing to spend it on. They could be spending it on putting a new bridge over a creek to their high school for resiliency. They could be, doing other things with their community to buoy up their streets and take care of things like that. They can't. It has to be related to tourism. And if you can't justify that adequately, you can't spend it on that.
Right. So there's kind of two parts of this. Is the definition
yes.
of what
is
tourism impacted is.
Yes.
Could that mean law enforcement? Could that mean fire? Right now, I believe the agreement is that the answer to that is no. That it has to be very specifically tourism related. And the other question is that split? We haven't addressed this yet. Is that split right? Should it be 70-30?
It is 70-30, but
or should it be regional? Maybe.
I was going to say, should it be regional? Are there some counties within the state that should have a different distribution? Mm-hmm. We are heavily impacted on the coast. There are areas in Oregon that are not impacted by this at all.
Right.
Should we maybe look at that and how that's impacting our state and our revenue?
Right.
And how we use it? There are a lot of things to consider. We need to continue to look at it and not be blindsided by the numbers. We need to be able to be flexible.
Right. And I think that's I think there are a number of pieces here. Like I said, there's ballot measures. I know Tillamook County has a ballot measure to increase the rate. It does not change the 7-30 split. Does not change it because it can't. It doesn't. No. That's a state issue. It's just increasing the amount. So folks can make that decision as they see fit. I know you haven't taken a position on that. And there are a number of pieces of legislation at the state that would also raise the state transient lodging tax, because there's this local one and the state one, and would redefine what a tourism impacted facility would be.
Yes, and okay, we can say emergency services is in dire need of additional money, but we can also say our restaurants are also in need of additional money. Mm-hmm. We have restaurants closing all over the place because, well, they don't have a workforce in the first place, and the workforce doesn't have a place to live.
Well, that's an interesting question, and we're kind of just tossing things at the wall here because I don't think anything would open it up this much. No. But is workforce housing for those folks who work in the tourism industry would that count, or should that count? Maybe that's something we could think about.
Yes.
So I think for the longest time we've been really buttonholed into not only the 70-30 split, which I think is going to be really hard for us to ever change. I think the lodging industry is
very
clear they do not want to change that. And okay, well, that's fine. Then is there other things that we could do to address the issues that we have?
Right.
And so I think that those are the conversations that are having more of a movement. And quite honestly, here really at the very end of the legislation, because there is, I know we were looking at a piece of legislation right beforehand, and there's actually another one that Katie just texted me the number of, so that I found, and we can talk about that a little bit, maybe in the future as we see where it's actually going to go. But let's keep on watching this, everybody. I hope everybody will keep an open mind. I think we can all agree. Those of us in impacted areas, tourism impacted areas, especially, that our law enforcement, our fire, our emergency services, they're really, really overtaxed during right about now until like the 1st of October. They're incredibly overtaxed.
And I have to bring one more thing up because I know we're running out of time here.
We are running out of time, so make it quick.
All right, next week. Revenue forecast is coming out.
Yes.
That is going to determine how much money we're going to be able to spend as a state.
Right.
How our budgets are going to look. And I really want to tell the people that have the big capital construction projects that came to Salem and testified yesterday. And I know it was 2 minutes. That was all they got. And it had to be in person. Next week, it's going to be virtual only, and there's going to be a whole different set of people. But, they had several hundred people that wanted to testify. People have needs.
Right.
And I'm just saying that money may not be there.
Yeah, this is going to be, we've said this every year, and I honestly, will be honest, we're managing expectations.
Yes.
It may be there. It may be there. And every year we've said we don't know that the money's going to be here this year. Every year, a good chunk of what we hope for comes, but it may not be this year. And we just want everybody to tamper their hopes.
Right.
Expect that it's not coming. Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst. But maybe I think this will be a good topic of conversation next week.
I think next week we ought to talk about this in depth.
Yep, because it's always money is always a good topic of conversation.
Yes.
Well, Senator, I think we've come to the end of our time together.
Once again, we could go on and on and on.
Well, like I said, we used to do this. I went and looked back, and there was a couple of them that we beat over an hour. And Katie has put the whip on us.
She has.
And we're probably already over what she would prefer.
We most likely are.
We love you, Katie.
We do.
Don't hurt us. She runs a tight ship. All right.
She does.
Thank you very much, Senator. Always appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone for listening. We'll see you next week.
And Martin, of course, has to say goodbye too.
Bye-bye, Martin.
Sorry, guys. Take care.